Welcome to Safety Talk. Personal safety expert Pete Canavan shares his insights and interviews experts who provide simple and effective tips, techniques, and technologies to keep you safe and secure both online and off. Here's Pete.
Hello and welcome to Safety Talk. I'm excited about today's episode featuring another great guest with a product designed to help keep people safe while traveling on foot. With so much danger from so many different directions in our world today, this is obviously an extremely timely topic. So thanks so much to our listeners for being here. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast network or networks, and of course our YouTube channel at safetytalkvideos.com. You don't want to miss an episode. Find out about all these great products that we feature. And we, of course, appreciate you helping us spread the word through your social circles and sharing our episodes. So I'm your host and safety sensei, Pete Canavan, and on my guest on this episode of Safety Talk is Chris Miller. He is the co-founder of Follo. It's a lifestyle and technology brand focused on personal safety. It was launched last year, along with his lifelong friend, Charlie Apothecary. So it is my pleasure to welcome to today's episode, Chris Miller to Safety Talk. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Pete. Great to be here.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. As I said, the world is turning into a more dangerous place every day. And, no matter where you find yourself, obviously keeping safe is priority one. And your technology is something that helps people do just that. So let's start off by letting our audience know a little bit about you and your background, how you kind of got interested in this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, like you said in the intro, my co-founder, Charlie Apothecary, is my best friend of 20 odd years. We've traveled the world together. We've explored and gone on adventures. We've lived in different cities around the world, and we're sort of city dwellers ourselves now here in London. And we finally, we've been talking about entering into this kind of space for a little while, just through our own sort of interest. And at the early 2021, there was a number of stories that started to really crop up and draw national interest, especially here in the UK, but they were happening all around the world. And it was when that sort of public discourse was really, really focused on personal safety, especially during walking journeys, whether that's in the city, out in the countryside, people walking their dogs, or even traveling abroad. We were, struck by a number of cases that seemed like there could have been more on offer for these people and for the emergency services and those who are looking for them to try and locate them. And as we looked more into the whole space, we found that, on top of the sort of practical use of a walking safety app, and one that would be able to do those things I sort of mentioned, that so many people were also feeling very unsafe. In fact, far more people were feeling very, very unsafe when they were making walking journeys. 80% here in the UK, 80% of women and 40% of men reporting feeling unsafe when walking alone after dark, which are obviously massive figures. And
sure, those are big numbers.
The massive numbers, yeah. And the thing was, what is it that's holding these people back? And why isn't there something out there that appeals to them? And when we looked into the space and what was available, we found that it was poorly served from our point of view, and that there was not something that was hitting the mark. My personal background comes from production, marketing, advertising, branding, things like that. Charlie works more in the city, in investment and finance and things, but he's always, like I said, his personal passions has always been very active and to explore. So we sort of brought all of our tools and our skills together to try and find something and build a product and a brand, I think really importantly, that would really appeal to the mainstream user, because we think Follo, and we've created Follo to be used by as many people around the world as possible on as many journeys as possible, not just the ones that you feel unsafe on, but also just adding that safety to as many journeys.
Well, you want to make it habitual and using it, right? That way you use it all the time. And I like how you called it Follo without the W. So it, kind of brands it, but yet and differentiates it a little bit, but still makes sense. Hey, Follo. It's something that, follows you around, I guess, and helps you stay safer. And I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? We want people to feel safe. We want them to feel confident and at ease when they're traveling around. And if you are someone that travels around the world, you're obviously going to be going to places that you're not familiar with. It's different than when you're in your own town, your own city, or someplace that you live for a while, that is familiar to you. You know where certain things are. Maybe you know where there are some safer areas or where you could go if there's a problem. If you're in a city and you're traveling or on vacation, people, they go different places. You have no idea what's a safe part of town, what's not. And people need to be able to have that sort of peace of mind, knowing that, hey, this is, quote, following them, right?
Mm-hmm.
and helping keep them safe. So that's awesome. And it's it's something that is an app that goes on your phone. Everybody's got their phone with them all the time. We're kind of all married to these devices now. And so having the phone with you, you've got Follo with you. And so that's ultimately the best thing. And then instead of having some other separate device that you got to remember to grab or take with you, oh, I left it at home, or you're going on vacation, oh geez, I left it there. This is something that you're not going to forget, because what happens if we forget our phone somewhere, right? Immediately we go right back to get our phone because we can't live without it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And look, a big part of what we do, and in terms of, just to reiterate sort of how Follo works, really, it's like, what makes us different is that Follo is the first fully automated walking safety app. So that a user can turn it on, put the phone back in their pocket if they wish to, unless they can always use it as a navigation device as well. But it will automatically turn off when they reach their destination. And for that period of time that they were walking, they have just been able to carry on with their journey, walk with a little bit more confidence and peace of mind, knowing that if something was to happen, that something, because the problems we found with the other apps were that they were manual activation, that they required the user to do something, and the onus was placed on a prospective victim, or whether it's of a medical emergency, accident, kidnapping, attack, assault, or anything in between. And we really wanted to take the pressure off of that person and put it onto the technology. And at the same time, we also noticed that the other apps required you to be followed literally by other people, to be tracked, to be watched, either 24/7 or for the duration of your journey. And we found that giving up privacy, giving up your independence in exchange for those moments where you do feel unsafe was an obstacle for adding safety to as many journeys as possible, basically. So those core values sit with all the decisions we make around Follo. And if someone is looking to add safety to their walking journeys without giving up their privacy, without giving up their independence, or having to bother their mum at 2 a.m. to ping them with a notification that they're walking home now, everything is very personal with what we're doing, and we hope to build out from that as well. But it's all kind of going to be a relationship with our users and our community, and just learning what they're enjoying about it, and sort of building out from there as well.
So I was reading about it, and you guys have something called safety triggers. Mm-hmm. That the app monitors. And if any or most of those, or I'm not quite sure how it works, but if the triggers are activated before or during someone's walk, then it sends out a notification to people if the person doesn't check in with them or something like that, right? So I'm looking at the website. So like slow movement or no movement for a certain amount of time, or their speed changes significantly, or distance from destination or route changes, right? These are different things that it monitors.
Yeah, completely. So essentially, you tap to activate Follo for a walking journey. 4 safety triggers look out for you while you walk. And it's monitoring for unusual activity from location, motion, or connection as well. So essentially, like you just alluded to, if you stop moving for too long, if you start moving significantly faster than walking speed, if you deviate from your intended route, or if your device becomes disconnected completely, whether that's been through damage or, essentially damage, or whether that's deliberate or not, that's essentially what we're sort of utilizing there. Basically, if that happens, the app will check in on the user with a timed and secure notification. So that's the moment that the user, if they are fine, can dismiss and continue with their journey, or maybe pause it if they've stopped to talk to a friend. Now, if that 2-minute countdown reaches the end, that's when the SMS alert containing their precise location, the reason for the alert, and a link to guidance on how to respond is sent to their key contact. So, it's basically not. A big part of what we're trying to do is let the person have a completely private and personal safety experience, unless they need we need to send the word out to their key contacts. So they're given as much control and privacy over the situation as possible to try and avoid false alarms, false alerts, and to keep them obviously as safe as we can as well.
No, I like that the fact that the app kind of communicates with you. And for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, I do have the website up here, and it shows a screenshot where, it says, hey, stop moving. You haven't moved for a long time. Your key contacts are going to be notified when this timer reaches 0. And then it has a 2-minute countdown, and you could say, hey, I'm safe, or no, alert my contacts. And obviously, if you don't have the ability to push the button, it's going to automatically alert those contacts when the timer goes down. So I love it, because it allows for the interaction of the user. Like, I stopped because I saw a friend and we're chatting, and on my walk. And so, I'm going to be here for a little bit. So, okay. So that raises a question, actually, as I'm saying that. So let's say I'm taking a walk, right? And I run into you and we strike up a conversation, and all of a sudden, I haven't moved because, I've told the app that I'm going somewhere, and the safety alert pops up, and I say, yeah, I'm safe. And I click it. So then will it wait another 2 minutes, and then the timer will pop back up again?
So exactly,
kind of like a snooze button, right? Like on your alarm. So you can
keep... In that situation, as you just described, let's say you wanted to continue chatting to your friend, right? You've got another 10 minutes of conversation to have. Maybe you would click I am safe. The next screen, I'm not sure we show it on this page of the website, but the next screen basically says continue journey or end journey, essentially. So you can end it. Let's say you've decided you're going to jump in a taxi and you're going to get home another way because it started raining or something. You can end the journey. Otherwise, you can continue. And then we have an option to pause. So basically, you could then just hit pause on your journey and just wait till you finish your conversation. And as soon as you crack on, just unpause it, and the app will be looking out for you again.
Great. See, you guys already thought of what I thought. I was trying to,
but we could have definitely. Well, this is why I'm so excited to talk to you today, Pete, because obviously knowing your experience, having spoken to people who've worked in this area of safety, but obviously across the board, there's so much experience that looking forward to tapping into from you, because safety is both a rational subject, and it's also an emotional one as well. And trying to strike that balance for people with a tool like ours is such a big thing. And I think that your experience with going for safety tools and devices and products and services all across the safety industry and area, I think is really, really interesting for sure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've talked to so many people. I've discovered so many neat products going to different shows and things like that, like the ISC West and East shows. You're always seeing these innovative technologies, and it never ceases to amaze me, the innovation and the sort of the people that come up with these things. It's like, wow, that's something that, why didn't I think of that kind of sometimes, and it's amazing. So one of the other things with these safety triggers is you mentioned earlier, Chris, that if the phone is damaged or turned off, right? Would this also include, like, let's say I'm driving somewhere and I lose cellular service for a while, like maybe I'm on a country road and there's no cell service for half an hour, something like that. It says that if the Follo loses connection to your device for 45 minutes, or if you reconnect at any time during that, the safety's dismissed. If it goes beyond that 45 minutes, then will it automatically trigger that alert that you won't be able to necessarily get the alert because you're out of the service area?
Yeah, well, just to sort of draw it back, just to say that Follo is very much, right now in our current iteration, it is very much a walking safety app. So it is purely for walking journeys.
Gotcha.
So there are obviously could be times where you may walk into areas of poor service. Right. And of course, within that we have, we've been working hard to make sure that the app is really intuitive and easy to use when it's disconnected. So that if you have done that you're not panicking that it's going to be sending an alert to your key contacts. This is why we actually extended the period of time that this is a fail-safe safety trigger. So essentially this is, if you do, end up going into areas of poor service. Some people here in London had been jumping on the tube and forgetting that they'd put it on, or they weren't quite understanding that it wasn't for that kind of thing. And so we extended that period of time so that there was enough. It could be that you maybe even need to, sometimes people's phones would run out of battery. Of course, right. we would encourage people to make sure they were fully charged, or at least had enough battery to make it through their journey. But yeah, right now, I think the key is to know that, like, this is very much about walking. It's very much those moments where, you know, those 7 or 8 minute walks where you're coming back from the tube station here in London. In the States, it could be a long walk through New York, for example, you know, coming back from the office. So those kind of journeys is what the parameters have been set to. But our goal is to really expand the way that we see safety and the way that we see a safety tool, and apply it to, you know, you've just mentioned driving, and maybe you're doing a long trip somewhere and you might end up in areas of poor service. That's certainly a vision of ours, is to be able to help add protection for skiing, for, you know, outdoor swimming, for hiking, for, well, hiking we actually really work pretty well for already, but, you know, it could be climbing. But by the end of this year, we're looking to have added running and cycling as active journeys, basically, that people will be able to basically flick the modes. They'll be on cycling mode, and all the safety parameters will change to make sure that they match cycling. We get
exactly. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Different mode. You know, if you're a jogger, you enable jogging mode. If you're skiing, skiing mode. If you're bicycling mode. I think that's brilliant. That's a great idea. Because,
you know, for us, this is, we really think that smart personal safety, and this is why we're so invested in it and so passionate about it, is literally, this is the next thing that people are going to want to add to as many journeys as they can. And whether that's, you know, for us, we have created something which is free to use, and we will always offer walking safety as a free to use service around the world, because we personally think that walking safety is basically a human right, really. No matter your income, we really want people to be protected. However, those modes that I just mentioned to you will be part of what we build into a premium subscription, which will be, you know, a small monthly cost, but allows you to add safety to your cycling journeys, to your running, your runs, your 10K runs, or your, like I said, you go out for a big cycle at the weekend and you're by yourself. We want to make sure that people feel like Follo is the thing that they take with them, and it just keeps that lookout, and it hasn't forced them to, you know, beg someone to watch over them and, oh, can you monitor me here? Can you wake up at 1 a.m. and look at a notification and know that I'm walking this way? The only time that our key contacts of our users are going to get notified is if we genuinely think that there's an issue.
So question. Now, let's say I'm somebody that I take the same walk every day. Can you can you save that into the app, into like your preferences, like your saved journeys, your saved walks? So you can say, oh, I'm taking this walk again, or this jog again, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can save as many favorite destinations as you like, and you can even add a home and a sort of key favorite as buttons on the home screen. So with one tap, you know, let's say you do, you know, 5 days a week, you commute back from, I'm going to use a London example, hope it's okay. So you live 7-minute walk from Kennington tube station. So you would have your home saved, and the moment you pop out the tube station, you tap home, the app goes back in your pocket, and it's looking out for you all the way for that route back to your house. And the same thing is if you had, you know, a partner's house that you go to regularly, you might save that on the other side as your key favorite. And essentially the app will always take where you are right now and give you the route. So, because, you know, we want to look into how we might save like full start to end routes, but at the end of the day, we really care about where the user is starting right now, because we want to protect them exactly where they are and then get them to where they need to go.
So when I'm starting a new walk, right? And let's say I'm walking to a friend's house that's, you know, 10-minute walk away. How does that get put into the app? Is it like a GPS thing? You put in the address? How does that get entered into the app?
So let me ask you a question. How much are you a walker? Do you do a lot of walking? You're more of a driver, or?
I drive more than I walk. I mean, I take my dogs for a walk, but I do a fair amount of walking.
Okay, nice. And do you, when you walk to new places, do you use Google Maps or Apple Maps? Maybe there's a walking sort of navigational kind of app that you might use.
Yeah, usually I'll use like Waze, like if I'm somewhere, like if I'm in the city or something like that, if I go to New York and I'm not familiar with an area I'm going to, I'll put in like the walking part of it and it'll say, okay, walk here, down this street, make a right, left, etc.
Exactly the same. And that's exactly the same as Follo. Essentially, we actually pull through off of Google's map data. So we actually have all of Google's map directions and waypoints and everything like that. So really, really trusted navigational features. And just like you were saying, you would add your destination in much like you would into Google Maps or Waze, like you just sort of described.
Perfect.
So if your friend calls you up and says, Pete, let's go for some beers down at this new place, and you're a 12-minute walk away, you can tap it in, the tavern or something, and it will pop up with your route. You not knowing where you're going will probably go back to the phone to check your route to make sure you're en route, and the app will be looking out for you the entire way that you do. So we're really trying to make something which slides into people's daily routines that feels really, really natural for them to use, much like you just described in using, Waze or Google Maps in order to do your normal routes as well.
Yeah, because people are already familiar with them, so why not tap into it? So that's great, and you don't have to make the investment in Google Maps that Google did, right?
Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah. This is it. I mean, there's no shame, I think, especially with a new product like ours. We don't need to reinvent the wheel with certain aspects. No. We want people to be familiar and feel that they can trust the directions they're going to get, the routes that they'll be able to walk, and that Follo will be doing all the kind of the heavy lifting when it comes to safety, and also not having to sort of bother a bunch of family members or other key contacts every time you want to use it.
Right. So you guys launched in October, I guess, of this past year. So just about 6 months ago. So how have things been going in the last 6 months?
It's been, I don't know. Hopefully I don't look too tired. I tried to sort of brush myself up a little bit for today, but it's great. It's so exciting. It's so every day is a huge, every day is a massive day for achieving different aspects with the app. We've had amazing reviews. We are rated, I think we're the highest rated walking safety app on the App Store currently. We've had great feedback, and we've appeared in Forbes and here in the Metro and all these great publications who have just really enjoyed what we're trying to put out there. And I think other than that sort of press and that kind of reaction, we've really enjoyed being in touch with our community as well. So I think we have just under 3,000 users at the moment, and it's a perfect pool of people as we launch, just to really get that feedback, because everybody's using it, letting us know what features they like, what features they'd like to see. And I described extending the parameters of one of the safety triggers earlier. That was all down to user feedback.
So what sort of feedback have you been getting from people so far?
Well, this is it. So you mentioned about the disconnected safety trigger, which we had previously set to 7 minutes. So basically, the first triggers were set to 2 minutes for stop moving. High speed is set to about, essentially, it's when you start going into a run, right? So, we think if you've told us you're going to be walking somewhere and you start running, we think that's a problem. Right. So we set that there, and then deviate from route is set to 60 meters. So I think do you do meters or yards over there?
Yeah, yards, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe 90 yards. So essentially those are the parameters of those, and they will kick in within a couple of minutes. Obviously from the deviate from route, it will be based on where you get to. But the disconnected trigger was causing issues because that was bothering users when it would go off, because they felt like they didn't have control over it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They were being told, oh, we're going to alert your key contacts, but they were like, but I'm just walking. It's not my problem that there's no signal here or whatever it might be. So we were saying, look, if we can extend that trigger, still have the other three, have we made anybody less safe? The answer we found was no. We felt that we had made sure they were safe in all the other ways within a very short space of time. And then we have the disconnected safety trigger, which works as this fail safe. Someone comes up and breaks your phone, throws it in a river, whatever it might be. Or if you collapse or something like that, and the phone gets wet, these different kind of reasons that it might go. And within 45 minutes, we felt that the balance between bothering users to the point that they didn't want to use it on their journeys, which is making people less safe, in our opinion, the balance between that and actually finding that sort of sweet spot of time. That was all down to user feedback, and it was really, really, really interesting, actually.
No, that's what the beautiful thing is about getting feedback. And so this is available, obviously, I would say on both the App Store and also through Google, through the Play Store.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, people go download it, right? And give you some feedback if you want, and start using it to be safer, because that's what it's all about. That's what we're all about here. And that's what, Follo's all about. And Chris and you guys are it's a great product. I'm gonna have to download it and play around with it, and tell my wife too, and the kids, and other people I know as well. Who is your target audience? As long as we're talking about having people use it, I would say pretty much everybody, right? But people that walk a lot primarily.
Yeah, as you can imagine, when you're a startup and you have limited sort of resources, you need to, as much as we see, a really kind of ubiquitous use for this, and so many different places that it could serve, from young to old, and rural to urban, and traveling far and wide. We have to focus our attention in on a certain group to start with, so that they can, those who seem to be pining for something like this. And so urban dwelling, sort of, mid-20s to 30s kind of group, those who might still be sort of single and spending a lot of time by themselves, also out walking to lots of places. We're much more like, sociable and physically wanting to get out of the house and go to different places when we're in our mid-20s. And that's definitely a group, men and women. I would just stress, like, one of the big things around our brand is that we don't like to specify a gender when it comes to who the app is for, because we really don't want to alienate anyone. And we also don't want to sort of put the onus on a particular group who we say this app is for you. We want, women to feel that they can use the app, men that they can use it, older, younger, and not feel that, oh, well, this said that it's a kid's app, or this said it's a
well, no, hey, everybody walks, right? It doesn't matter who you are, who you identify as. You're somebody, you go for a walk, you want to be, have something that's going to help you feel safer. Use it, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, use something that can improve your personal safety, because if you don't feel safe, nothing else really matters. If you've got a problem, it's nice to know you got something that's looking out for you, we're kind of in the background. And if you start to use it and you make it a habit, like you said, every time you get out of the train station and you on your walk home, you hit the button, you forget about it. You don't have to think about it unless there's a problem.
Absolutely. And, we were thinking of it from a perspective of, wanting to appeal to everyone. There was certainly, I want to use something like that. I've been in bad situations a few times through my 20s when I was, when I was living in London, and I've traveled the world. I mentioned to you before we started our call that I'd worked in video production before. I'd be by myself with tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment on my back in strange places. There's all kinds of reasons why someone might want to use our app, and we didn't want to place any kind of obstacle, whether that was a mental one for them saying, well, this is a children's safety app or a women's safety app, well, it's not really for me, kind of thing. Anyone and everyone, we want to feel that they can use and get value from Follo. And because it's a very personal experience, in the fact that it's not involving people constantly in your journeys, and that you can use it privately for hopefully ever. We hope, obviously, you could be using the app for 5 years and hopefully no one would ever get an alert, but you would have felt safe for that entire time, because you knew that it was looking out for you. And that's a big, big thing for us. We don't want to take the stress that you feel about safety and make it any greater, right? We don't want to make you feel any more pressure about it. We actually want to make you feel more confident. We want to make you to feel more encouraged to get out and do what you want to do.
I think everybody today is feeling a little less safe too with current events. I don't like to really make too much, comment in these episodes, because they're sort of timeless, right? A lot of time, but there are things happening in the world today that are making everybody feel a little less safe. So if you have something that can sort of, has got your back, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's not, it's not something that's going to make you feel more stressed out. It should, like you just said, Chris, make you feel more confident, make you feel more safe, make you feel less stressed. Because if you're prepared, and I say this all the time, the time to prepare is before the need arises. And the time to prepare for something is time well spent, because if you are preparing for a problem, you should have increased confidence that you're going to be able to handle any issues that could come about. It's the people that don't prepare. It's the people that don't have the foresight to think about, well, if something could happen, what can I do to prepare myself? Some people, they kind of, they bury their head in the sand and they I just don't want to think about it. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a big problem. And that's a dangerous attitude to have, because if you are ignoring potential problems or, threats to your personal safety, and me being somebody that teaches, martial arts and self-defense to a variety of people, men, women, kids, different groups, law enforcement, women, corrections, you've got to think about your personal safety. You've got to think about how can you prepare yourself for what could be the unthinkable. Well, if you've prepared yourself and you get put in a situation that is bad, well, you've prepared for this to a certain extent. We can't prepare for every single possible scenario, but having some training and having some awareness about how to deal with an issue or a problem is going to put you much further ahead than somebody that's never thought about it or has ignored it. And this is the same sort of thing. It's just an extension of that awareness component, but it's something that you've taken it and made it almost to the point where you don't have to think much about it once you start to use it all the time. And that's one thing that we're all so busy, right? Everybody's got a ton of stuff on their plate. We've all got worries. We've all got stresses. We've all got a million things competing for our attention, whether it's our families, our kids, our jobs, our friends, family, whatever. There are things that are competing for our attention. So you don't want to think or have to remember too much. If you've got an app on your phone that you can just hit and say, all right, I'm walking here, done. Put it away. Don't have to think about it. That's a really good thing. And we want to get into those good safety habits, because that's what's going to keep you safe and improve your all these different things that contribute to your confidence level and your ability to feel better about what you're doing and where you're going.
That point about habits is so key, I think, and it's very fundamental to what we were trying to create. Make something that can become very habitual, something that doesn't really disrupt your day, your thinking, or anything like that, because like you said, good safety habits, will reap rewards. They will give you that protection. And wanting to create a product that can be a habit, that can be really enjoyable, easy, simple, and quick to use is playing into that completely.
So this says, went over some of the features, but you had mentioned that you guys kind of came up with this concept after seeing different sort of tragic events nearby where you're at in the UK. And that is, whether it's some sort of medical emergency or being attacked or a kidnapping or, whatever, there are a lot of different things. So what, when somebody downloads the app, are there any other features, or is that pretty much, what it was designed for? It's designed to allow you to safely get from point A to point B and only have to worry about it if there's a problem.
Essentially the simplicity of the tool, especially at the moment, I don't think we'll ever look to overcomplicate the app, but we certainly will be adding a number of different features and functionalities as we grow and listen, like we said, about to our community. Right now, it's all about simplicity. Give, like we were just saying about, give somebody a tool that they can turn into a safety habit, a good safety habit that they can add into their lives. So when you download the app and you get set up, you'll be set up within 2 minutes. Like I said, it's completely free. You can log in with one click using one of your favorite social media accounts. If that's easier, you set up your key contacts with a couple of taps and choose who you want them to be, and you are set, ready to go. So the next time you're out walking, you can use the app to navigate you there. You can use it to look out for you. You could use it to look out for you and then go to another app if you would really like to navigate there if you want. But really, we've tried to create something that you can do it all in one go. And you mentioned, Pete, about walking your dog. I'm a dog walker as well. Basically, that's kind of where I do all of my walking. And a big part of a new feature that we added to Follo after launching was actually a button called Just Walk. And Just Walk adds all of Follo's safety features except for the deviate from route So essentially what that does is it immediately turns on the safety functionality, but you won't have to keep to a route, because I'm sure you'll agree, we never really stick to a road or a path. When we walk the dog, it's wherever they want to go. It's all over the place. It's meandering this way, that way. So essentially with Just Walk, which was a community-based feedback kind of, project really that made its way onto the app, we're able to basically add safety to those meandering strolls, those dog walks, any kind of walk where there's no set route or destination. So yeah, another really, so when we talk about additional features, yes, there's an additional feature there, but it's more built into the very core idea of Follo already, rather than sort of bells and whistles added on, which we think might be a bit of a distraction.
Yeah, and you don't want that. You want to be able to add, things that are going to be helpful, and use. So when they, so with the emergency contacts, and as you were talking, Chris, I was thinking about this. So is there what's the number? Is there a limit on the number of contacts? And then is there a priority? Like how would it, so let's say there is a problem. How does the app then contact those contacts? If you've got, say, 5 contacts, does it start with the first one and roll through them all? Does it shotgun them all at once? How does that part of it work?
So in honesty, the system of alerting is not super sophisticated at the moment to the point of prioritizing. It's very much that shotgun approach. You've selected your key contacts based on the fact that you are happy with those people being alerted and you feel that those people are going to be the most useful to you. You can add up to 10. So plenty of people who would be able to receive that SMS alert. And you
got a posse coming to help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wherever they might be, they're all they hear the call and they come. So yeah, like I said, super simple at the moment. And again, things to build into. And I'd love to talk to you after you start using the app. We'll have to get some feedback and how you feel it's working, because that's the kind of sort of sophistication that may become really quite interesting for our users. Oh, maybe I'd like to add some more contacts, but they might be on a secondary priority. And we've certainly been looking at the idea of customizing groups of contacts, because some people walk a lot for work Monday to Friday, and they may want to add work colleagues or maybe even a work security person to their contacts, but they don't want them there on the weekends, and they don't want them getting their emergency alerts if anything happens on the weekends. And
that's kind of what I was thinking, is like, depending on where you are, like whether it's work or at home or traveling, you may want to have a few different groups of emergency contacts, and then maybe some that are always on the list, right? But then like you just mentioned, perfect example, you're at work, you want the security, desk number in there to be one,
Yeah, and it plays a lot into, we're working a lot with B2B sort of partners, so large companies with large workforces. As you can imagine, and I'm sure you've been seeing through your work, so many employers are really taking a much bigger interest in the safety and welfare and mental well-being of their employees, especially since COVID and bringing people back to the office. And we've had people departments, HR departments really banging down our door to get this out to their employees. And of course, it's free to use at the moment, but when we start our premium subscription, working with B2Bs and giving them sort of that kind of employer sort of hub, the ability to have that security personnel added to the workday journeys if they're using it, is a big part of it. And also there are certain industries where walking is actually a necessity, a part of the job, whether that's the mailman over here in London, or estate agents do a lot of walking around the cities. And we're working with some really big names in different areas to basically provide the app to all of their staff. And, it's a bit like I touched on before, it's a physical safety tool, but it's also a digital well-being tool. It's mental well-being, to be able, for people, 80% of women, 40% of men feeling unsafe when they're walking alone after dark. That's a lot of journeys that they're feeling unsafe, and that's just not a nice feeling. And if you can give them something as an employer, which is going to help alleviate some of that stress and worry to an extent, I think, it's a kind of a no-brainer, I think.
Yeah, well, people sometimes like to take a walk on their lunch break at work, or even just, when they get to work. Some, businesses have a large campus where you might have to park in one part of the lot, and it might be a 5-minute walk to the front door. So you can put that in there. And if there's a problem during that walk, people can be alerted. So some excellent features. I really, you guys are really thinking things through. It sounds like you're getting some great feedback from users. Obviously, when something's new like this, it's a learning process, but every little piece of feedback, is like, oh, you take that in consideration. Does that sound like something's good? I don't know, maybe. Next thing you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 other people are all saying the same thing. It's like, oh, maybe we should think about adding that as a feature to the product. So that's awesome that you guys are working with some B2B, businesses out there, because as you said, employers have a vested interest, obviously, in keeping their employees safe, no matter where they are, whether they're in the office, doing work at their desk and keeping them safe from some sort of cyber problem, or if they're, walking to and from work, or they are, taking a walk during their lunch break, they need to also feel safe, physically. And so these are responsibilities that more employers are taking. They're taking it seriously. And, the number of threats, unfortunately, isn't going down. It's only going up. And that's a scary thing. It's not a good thing. And so we've got to come up with ways that we can combat that. Businesses have to do it. Individuals, you have to take, individual responsibility for your personal safety, because at the end of the day, it's up to you to do what you can to make yourself as safe as possible. And so using things that are, especially something that's free, like this app, is fantastic. I mean, it's a no-brainer for people. So I encourage everybody, go get it, take a look, know that it's a new product, enjoy the features, you get some ideas, let Chris and his team know. And there's probably a feedback button or something in the app, right? Or an email that they can shoot you some feedback on, right?
Yeah, one of the first things we added in there when we got it out, we were like, we need to talk to our users. It's so important.
Sure. Because there's things that we don't think of, right? I mean, when you develop a product, there's things that you put in there that you think, okay, this is pretty good. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? And that's why you have people use it. So what's your future look like? What can we expect in the future here down the road? 6 months in, you're already cranking. So it's fast and furious.
Yeah, the future is really exciting. We've got lots of really exciting development plans, as we touched upon, wanting to add functionality for running and cycling within the next few months. It then allows us to build a slightly more premium product. And so we can really, market to that group as well. But at the same time, it is just a case of building the user base and trying to learn exactly what they want to see from this. We are keen to, we're in the process of raising money at the moment, as all startups have to go through. So we are in that really fun process of talking to lots of finance people, but it's grueling, but it's a really interesting experience, and had some really great interest from some great names out there. And so I think that with that kind of injection of finance and funds, we can really start to grow, rapidly through this year. The app is available around the world, and like I say, whether you're using it at home and you live domestically in the United States and you're using it at home and around everywhere in the US, or if you're traveling abroad, you can use it in those, new places that you're visiting. And again, completely free to use as well. But yeah, it's very much about sort of just tapping into the brand, really. Our brand is all about trying to promote happy and active lifestyle, trying to encourage people to do all those outdoor activities and pursuits that they might have either felt some level of stress or fear when they were doing, or they just wanted to add safety to, and give them that confidence to be out there. We touched upon a couple of ideas that we have when it comes to skiing and swimming and riding and climbing. Those are things probably a year or so down the line, but running and cycling, so we have that sort of trifecta of modes that we can offer people, and those are of course the most common journeys, especially in urban areas. So it's certainly exciting, and like we were saying, we'll have to stay in touch and make sure we get as much feedback as possible from you and your community as well.
Sure. How did you conceive the idea for the brand? Who came up with Follo?
So the brand, Charlie, my co-founder, sort of came to me with the idea, and we started to really look into it, from a product perspective, but very, very quickly we realized that brand was going to be such a key part of it, because the way that we were going to communicate this sort of new smart personal safety tool to people was going to be very key in whether they were actually going to use it, whether they were going to incorporate it into their lives, like we talked about. So, you know, myself and actually, funnily enough, my sister, who's a branding and communications genius, who came on as our head of branding comms, helped to craft with Charlie and I a really, you know, a brand that we're really proud of, and we're proud of the tone of voice, the messaging that we put out there. We operate differently to any other kind of walking safety app. And maybe, you know, I'm sure you know a lot of products in your safety space and personal safety that maybe dwell a lot on the thing that could happen and maybe even elicit fear. But that's something that we really want to steer clear of. And that's not a comment on any of those other products, because they do what they need to do, but we very much want to tap into that mainstream audience who are keen to not be scared into using our products. You know, we want them to use it because they enjoy using it and because it adds value, and it doesn't make them feel stressed or fearful when they do. So we really are working a lot on the brand and the fact that it is very much going to have a lot of positive and bright and optimistic and messaging. We want to be in constant contact with our users and make sure that they're very happy and that they're getting everything they want. And of course, a big focus on safety and making sure we're always keeping our users safe in the most effective possible way.
Nice. So I pulled up the site again here. So you do have a frequently asked questions section on the website. So if people do have questions, it looks like you've got some good questions here you've got answered. One of the ones that jumped out at me was, and this is, we're talking about privacy, right? Can people monitor someone's live location when they are walking, or no?
No, they can't. So this is very much about you with your personal safety device. And I'm sure different to some of the tools you might have seen and founders you might have spoken to in the space before. We've taken a different angle on this. We're very much trying to provide users with a personal safety experience that, up until it's absolutely necessary, doesn't involve anybody else.
That's good. And you don't have to worry about turning it off unless you just have it in that just walk mode, right? We're just kind of strolling around, taking a walk, enjoying nice weather. Yesterday and today here in Pennsylvania, we've had some gorgeous weather. It's starting to get into some nicer weather. Thank goodness. It's winter's always long in Northeast Pennsylvania.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm just starting to see the willow tree in my garden get some green leaves, and it is a hell of a sight, I have to say.
That's nice.
Though today is grey and miserable.
So something else here. I know some devices, they also can be set to contact emergency services, whereas this, as of right now, doesn't, because it can be used, I guess, everywhere. It'll send it to your emergency contacts. Could you make one of those emergency contacts be like your local, police department, for example?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big subject that we spend some time working on. It's not something that's involved with the app at the moment, because we're trying to position ourselves in a particular way so that users don't feel too stressed or pressured by the knowledge that the emergency services are an automated sensor away, right? We've talked a bit about, essentially the ability, you don't want people to have too many false alarms.
Right.
However, with an automated walking safety app, there's always the possibility, and there's plenty of times where you're going to get pinged and it will have the countdown. And you'll be like, oh, well, completely forgot. I'm actually just chatting to a friend here, as we talked about before. You don't
want that, because, the emergency services get a little annoyed.
Yeah, exactly. And when we can bring it in and introduce it in a way which sits well within our brand values and the way our community wants that. And I think a big part of that will be about control. So I think making sure that the user feels protected in the way that we protect them currently, by giving them that immediate connection to their loved ones or colleagues and so on and so forth. That's great automated, because it's like I can trust it. And if it goes off when I actually was fine, it's not the end of the world. I haven't called the police. I haven't called emergency services. I think by potentially we'll look into giving people the option to manually do so, because there are instances where, of course, you could actually activate the app, which is why we do have a manual SOS button in there as well. And potentially we'll look at doing something directly in there as well. But again, something we're holding off for now until we get really understanding of how our community is reacting to it.
Yeah, and it would be a little tricky to do. But like you said, I mean, if your emergency contacts are getting all the information about you, all they've got to do is now turn around, call 911 or the emergency service in their country and say, hey,
100%.
this was just activated. This is my friend. This is their location. Go see what's going on.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
And it's an extra phone call, but like I said, it's not that much of a time, delay, especially if you're shotgunning it out to, 10 people, as a maximum. Somebody's going to get the message and be able to act on it. Try and call you, can't get a hold of you. Boom. Next step is, call the local police and say, hey, this person is not responding. I got an emergency alert from their phone. Go see what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if you managed to bring up the example SMS, but it's really clear. It says, for the key contacts, when they receive it, it says, this is a emergency SMS from Walking Safety App Follo. It could be Pete has not responded to, Pete stopped moving for too long and he did not respond to a notification on his device. This is his location. Very clear what 3 words link to your precise location. That could be, whether that's in a remote area or anywhere like that. It's very, very precise. It gives them the reason for the alert. Like I said, you'd stop moving for too long. And then also that link, which takes them straight to the website and they can see a step-by-step. And so they're immediately going through those step-by-steps, which is, contact, locate, escalate. So first one is contact, which means try and get in touch with Pete, drop him a message or a call. And if he's not responding, then it's a time to, locate. So you're looking at his location and you're thinking, okay, why is Pete in the middle of, Manhattan? Oh, well, okay, he might have been visiting his sister-in-law or something. And, then it's, okay, I can get in touch with them and you can just go through the process. And if you've gone, actually, no, this is too odd. This is not right. Something's not right. Then you can make that decision. Your key contacts can make that decision to escalate and involve the emergency services.
No, that's good. I like that. I mean, because you have to empower people to a certain extent as well. Technology can only do so much. It's only so smart. We've still got to be the smart ones. Right?
I totally agree. 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, very good. So this is it's an exciting product. I wish you guys the best luck with it, and we'll definitely stay in touch because we're wrapping up. The show's coming to a close so fast. Hour always flies by, as I said it would. Right?
Yeah.
Been good talking with you, especially over the pond there, over in the UK. What time is it over there for you? Later in the day.
It's coming up to 3 o'clock now. Yeah, 3 p.m.
Yeah, so a little bit later. All right, at least not 3 a.m.
yeah, exactly. No, I would have, of course, stayed up for you, Pete. I'd have been there, night.
Thanks. Well, do you have any last thoughts or sort of key points that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Just to thank you, of course, for having me on and to ask such insightful questions about the app. I think it's to all your listeners and viewers, just to say, go check out Follo. It's the world's first fully automated walking safety app. And as Pete and I, we've just been talking about, it is something that you can integrate into your life really, really easily. It works just like a walking navigation app, but it has those safety features and safety functionality. That means it can keep you safe, can keep your loved ones safe, but all in a way that feels private and everybody gets to maintain their feelings of independence as well. So like I say, completely free as well. And, we want all of you guys to use it and get in touch with us and let us know any suggestions you have as well. But, when it comes to safety, a big thing, just to touch on what you said, Pete, safety habits, are the best possible thing. Getting into the habit of adding safety, and whether that's in cybersecurity, whether that's personal safety on your walking journeys, whether it's to do with package theft or, when you're out driving, whatever it is, find those things that work for you. And if Follo works for you, for your walking journeys, then go ahead and integrate it, because, you want to make sure you're prepared. And hopefully we provided a tool that does that for you all.
No, and we appreciate it because, I know it's a lot of work. It's a labor of love, especially in the beginning, because it takes a lot to come up with something like this. And people can read more about it. We showed the website a couple of times here during the interview that you can see on the Safety Talk videos on our YouTube channel. You can also go to the website is followapp.co. That's FOLLO app.co. So there's no W in it, right? We're branding it Follo without the W.
That's
and of course,
correct.
if you search for that on the App Store or Google Play, you can find that, download it, and start using it.
Absolutely. Thanks
Very
so
good.
much.
So just to kind of wrap, I mean, for those of you that, in a nutshell, right? The app Follo has these groundbreaking features that are automated. They solve some problems that are inherent in some of the other apps, which may prevent people from using it in the first place. Privacy, of course, being a big one. It doesn't have to be manually activated, which is a huge, other than, initially you just say, okay, now I'm walking here and that's it. You forget about it. You don't have to, push buttons if there's a problem and that sort of thing, which if you're incapacitated, you can't do. And it's only monitoring you when you're actively on a journey. So, that's another thing. People are very concerned about, privacy. They don't want things monitoring them all the time. I mean, God knows we're monitored enough from every direction. So privacy is big, and it's great that you guys have built that in. That's a key feature there, because I think that's going to be something that's going to be attractive to people. And your key contacts don't have to sign up for it either. So you can program it into the phone, just pulls it from the contacts you have, and that's pretty much. So I kind of get that right.
Absolutely, yeah, nail on the head. Absolutely got it.
Very good. All right. Well, hey, Chris, again, thanks a lot for being here. If you guys out there interested in learning more about Chris or Follo, you can check out his company's website. As I said, followapp.co, follow without the W. And of course, you can find him on social media. We'll make sure that we post those links in the podcast episode, but you guys can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, the website. And thanks again for being here. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the latest safety information, learn about great products like Follo's app, and watch those videos on our YouTube channel at safetytalkvideos.com. Until next time, everybody, please stay safe.